How Time Flies is an interactive performance for children and families inspired by a theme of archaeology. It was created by Handmade Theatre, which is a creative company set up and run by myself, Amy Nicholson, as a theatre designer, and also Susie Gunn, who trained as a contemporary performer and now works as our creative producer. And the creative devising process of this was a really interesting journey that we went on together. Practical research is really important to us, to actually sort of get in touch with the theme or subject or text that we're working with. For this, being archaeology, we sought out archaeologists to talk to, interviewing them, but also undertaking a practical archaeological dig. We were lucky enough to talk to Corinza Lewis, who people might know from Time Team, and she's currently a lecturer at Lincoln University. And she invited us to come along to a community-based archaeological dig that she was undertaking in Lincoln. So Susie and myself actually went along and went through that process with her to actually kind of dig and find out how that works. And also importantly for our company, because it was a community-based one, we were working alongside children as well. So seeing what they found interesting, because we would never have got that from books. If we just kind of looked at archaeology from a book, you get that sort of stereotypical view. And whereas what became interesting was the fact that the children were more excited by stones and worms that they were finding than some of the kind of actual historical elements. And that became really important to the way we went about devising that show. We then took that experience into the studio. I brought to the studio lots of kind of different objects, lots of fabrics for the team to play with. And Susie brought elements of texts, of poems, of facts. And we worked together with both those elements to devise just kind of little vignettes initially, little stories, little characters that sort of came out. We had ideas of different areas of history that were interested, but we were also really inspired by some of the real archaeologists that we'd met. The fact they had these little in-jokes between them, the fact that they had different passions in history, and we really wanted to make that come across in our own show, that kind of reality, I suppose, but build it into something that often became quite funny as well. And that was the process for creating this show. It wasn't a narrative that we already had, it was a process of play. And it was about bringing those different things into that studio, those different textures, and to create a really kind of exciting piece of interactive theatre. In creating the set design for How Time Flies, I worked collaboratively with craftsman Ben Thomas. This is the way that all Handmade Theatre sets are made. He works for a charity in Salford called Start Create, which works with adults with mental health issues. And he runs a wood workshop there where all our sets are made. And it's always a really collaborative process. For this piece, it was to be inspired by a kind of Bedouin tent, something that our audiences could come and actually touch and see, and a flexible space as well that we could then dress differently with different props, different costumes, and really transform throughout the nature of the show. The other element of the set design that was really important was we wanted something that gave that idea to our audiences about digging, about uncovering secrets, because that's what was really exciting to young people. So we had a number of different boxes in different styles that we could open up kind of different objects. In the show, we also use elements of puppetry from a very sort of funny, large camel character, which is always kind of a highlight of the show, it being humorous, but also being able to play with scale and really reduce that scale. We had a lovely puppet that was an exact replica of one of our characters. But by bringing down that scale, really kind of brought in the focus of the piece. We had to talk about how she died, and that can be quite a difficult subject with young people. But somehow by bringing it into a doll-like fashion, it meant it was accessible, and it was a really intimate moment in the show. One of the most exciting things about creating How Time Flies was the process of creating that show. Being able to be involved intrinsically as part of that team, from research through to devising through to performance, meant that there weren't disparate elements coming together. It was about one creative process that evolved, and that was really exciting.